Welcome to Hello Kind Soul Podcast, where we raise the vibration of kindness on a global scale. I'm Dr. Ebony Green, your host, and I'm super excited to be with you today. If you want to follow us on all major platforms, look us up at Hello Kind Soul Podcast. And if you want to follow me, look me up at eGreen Equity. I hope you enjoy the episode. Have a great day. Welcome to Hello Kind Soul Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ebony Green. We are so excited to be in community with Inaudy Gill.
Hi.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. It is so exciting to be on your show.
I appreciate that. Please tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Of course. I mean, how far back do you want me to go? I could go back 42 years. I could. But no, I am. So I hold multiple hats in the community. I am here in Orange County. I am the executive director for the Human Rights Commission for my local county. I also am the founder for my own consulting agency called IIJ Consulting. IIJ stands for my names. It's my initials, Inaudy, Ismenia, Josefa. So I own all three of my names. I am a mom of three incredible little humans. I have a 14-year-old, an 11-year-old, and an almost 4-year-old, even though he thinks he's 14 too. And I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I am a sister. I am just a human being trying to do good in this world.
I love that. Share with the people if you want any social media tags. How do they follow you? How do they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on, so the only Inaudy on Instagram is probably the best way. I don't post a lot of fun, exciting things, but you'll see my kids a lot. Okay, but awesome. I love staying in touch with people who follow me.
So the only way to start, it just sounds perfect because you said your goal is to be a good human.
Yeah.
Right? So tell me, what does that mean to you? What does it mean to be a good human?
Yeah. So I can go back to when I think about being a good human and a good person, I can go back to being around 5 or 6 years old. And I know that was my age because I was born in the Dominican Republic and I came to this country at the age of 7. And sometime when I was still back home, there was a song that came out, and it was a salsa. It's called El Gran Barón, and it is a beautiful, beautiful melody, and it is narrated by the singer, and it is about a father who is expecting, right? His wife is expecting, and they're expecting El Gran Barón, the major man, right? The man of the house. And they have a boy, a baby boy. But throughout the song, we learn that this baby boy grows up to be transgender. We didn't have that term back in the 80s, right? But this baby boy turns out to be more on the feminine side and likes to dress up and is gay. And dad disowns him. And dad says, absolutely not my macho son. And stops talking to him. And the song starts at birth in the hospital and ends with the son dying of AIDS because of the AIDS epidemic. And I will never forget being this young age, questioning, why would a father not love his son? Regardless of, I just didn't get it. Right? Fast forward to high school, being involved in all sorts of activities and, things. And I remember getting into arguments with some of my male friends. And we talked about the double standard. Well, what do you mean? A guy can have a girlfriend and but a girl can't have a boyfriend and she's called a slut. Right? And it's like, why are we shaming women and girls? Right? So I've always had this mentality of injustice and trying to be a voice or speak up, or at least questioning, why do these things exist, right? And then throughout my career, I found myself working for a rape crisis program and assisting victims of sexual assault. And then I found myself working for a domestic violence agency and working with victims of DV and human trafficking, and just finding then later on myself in human rights that I am put in this world to help those who don't have a voice find their voice. Right? I am in places at tables that people don't look like me. People don't look like us, or they have not had the experiences that we've had, or the experiences of the people that I get to work with. whether it's LGBTQ, whether it's Muslim, whether it's Jewish, whether it's, any one community that is historically marginalized, I get to be in the spaces where I get to say, hey, don't forget, this exists, this is out there. And that to me is part of what being a good human is, just reminding people of the experiences that are out there.
Wow, that's powerful. That was question one, y'all.
I gave you a lot. Sorry.
No, I appreciate that. And so my question is, how do you stay true to your values, to your integrity when you're in spaces, when you're in rooms that don't reflect that thought process, right?
Well, let's talk about how hard that is. Let's also acknowledge the fact that that's a learning. I mean, we are human. We learn, continue to learn and grow throughout our entire lives. I would like to think that I've gotten better at it with the years, but imposter syndrome is real.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? I'll never forget the first day I started the role in my local government, sitting in the room where I was the only person of color amongst 30 other leaders, department heads that were all white. And I was the only person of color there. Not the only Latina, not the only brown. No. Only person of color completely. And I remember feeling, I don't belong. And I texted someone, and that someone said to me, stop it, relax. You earned the place where you're at. You belong there, right? And that was a really great wake-up call for me that I constantly take with me, remembering to remind myself that I belong, right? But how do I remind myself that I belong and stay true? I continue to wear my hoops. I continue to wear my red and my pink lipstick, right? It's my brand. It's my signature. I went natural with my hair 8 years ago. It's been 8 years since I've straightened this, right? I transitioned from, wearing it straight and relaxing it to just having it natural. But that too was hard. I had my own family members. My own mom was like, still is, you going out like that? You're not going to do your hair? Like, mommy, I just did my hair. It took me an hour to make it look this good. What do you mean? And she's like, it's a little puffy. I'm like, good. I needed a little puffier. So it is finding that balance between what you hear, when your mother is telling you, go comb your hair, you're like, oh, does it look bad? You question it, you double guess yourself, right? And then finding myself in those spaces where people don't think like I do, right? And I got to tell you that it's when I hear from the community, that's what feeds me. It's when I go in front of 200 young ladies in a local school district, and 2 or 3 of them at the end raise their hand and they're like, is that your natural hair? And I'm like, after all that, that's what you got out of this? But yes, this is my hair. But they see someone that looks like me on a stage and it inspires them, right? It's getting those emails from people who say things to me like, for the first time in a really long time, I feel seen. I felt heard, right? That's what drives me. That's what keeps me, right? As hard as it is sometimes, because at the same time, I also have to build relationships, right?
Yep.
I also have to make sure that for me to stay at those tables, that I play nice in the sandbox, and that I do find the balance of listening to what you have to say and me telling you what I think you should hear, right? So finding balance between all of that.
Yeah, I think it's super important. Here at Hello Kind Soul, we like to normalize being yourself,
yes.
right? Because I think the thing about resistance, I think, is, for me, resistance is showing us other people the permission for me to be me. And by me being able to be me, it sometimes gives permission for other people to be them.
Yeah.
Right? And then we just normalize that we can be us and create epic change in the world. And that often gets overshadowed, right? I'm wondering how do you care for your heart? Like, what you do requires a really, really healthy heart posture. But as we all know, over the long term, it gets exhausting and there's a lot of weight to it, right? Because with much success, maybe much dismay when you aren't able to shift people to see others as they are. So what do you do to care for your heart?
Yeah. So this is something that I've had to learn throughout the years and have also had to change and shift how I do it, right? Because 20 years ago, I was working with victims of human trafficking, sexual assault, domestic violence, etc. And that was really heavy on my heart.
Absolutely.
Really, really heavy, right? And I had to learn what does Inaudy need so that she can show up for her clients, so that she can show up authentically for her staff that she's, supervising and training, etc. And I learned different ways of self-care. I also burnt out, right? Because both things can be true.
Yep.
You can practice all the self-care and all the fluff you want, and then you burn out too.
100%.
100%, right? So now it's about understanding that Inaudy has gone through a lot of changes in her life. In the last few years, I experienced a divorce. I had a third child. We all survived a pandemic, right? That alone was like, whew. So self-care has looked different. I no longer do my nails. It used to be, I take time for myself and I go do my nails every 2 weeks and I sit back and get a pedicure. My therapist, which, by the way, that's one of the things I do to take care of my heart, therapy. But she's like, well, that's the fluff. Yeah, you take baths? Great, fluffy fluff, right? What do I really do, right? I'm connected to my spiritual self. I pray, right? I find myself asking the questions, asking God, asking the universe, where am I supposed to go? Where am I supposed to be? Show me the signs. And then trusting in my faith, trusting that wherever I'm supposed to be, I'm at. No matter how painful that moment may be, no matter how painful that process or that transition is. I read a lot. Sometimes that's not healthy either.
Yeah, there is a weight to the media, y'all. Lately,
Yes,
you got to decide what you're going to pick up and entertain.
Oh, picking and choosing. Yes. So right now I am focusing on self-growth, right? Last year it was, let me write a book. So I started writing. Y'all, writing is not for me. So I put that down. I tried candle making, soap making. That was really fun. Also not for me. So I stay curious. That's my answer. I stay curious. I try different things. And I also, because of my ADHD, right? So as a neurodivergent person, I've come to learn to just accept my brain. And this is how my brain works. I am no longer going to fight it. I'm no longer going to know. Like, this is just my brain needs every couple of months a new project. Okay, what's this new project? All right. I did a podcast. That was so much fun. I'm going to do it again at one point. The Good Human Chronicles. I can't wait to do it again. But right now, my brain can't handle that. So I am real to myself, my authentic self, which means also so much. So many different things. But really listening to myself. And that may mean that this weekend that I had planned to, work on that book that I picked up a year ago that I was supposed to, maybe that's not it. Maybe what I need to do is get away and just do nothing and just sit with my own thoughts. Not mindful or mindless, scrolling, but just listen to my own thoughts. So I find that listening to myself has really helped.
It's so wild because part of what you're sharing is really about evolving into the person you want to be, right? And I'm curious, when did you give yourself permission to, for example, leave your head natural or change certain things about you that you might have been conditioned to believe are a prerequisite for the titles, for said success, for whatever? How did you get to the place to give yourself permission, or who gave you that thought, courage?
So your question, I'm going to break it up into two.
Okay.
Or give you two answers. Because there is Inaudy pre-divorce, and I keep talking about myself in third. It's very weird. I never do that. I don't know why I keep saying Inaudy this, Inaudy. I don't know where that's coming from. But I'm going to keep doing it, I guess. There's Inaudy pre-divorce, and then there's Inaudy post-divorce. So natural hair, me, I don't know how that came about, other than if I think back, I look at some of the women that were around me, that motivated me, that pushed me, that mentored me. I can think of a couple of women, Black women who were also transitioning. And because I looked up to them, I'm like, I can do that too. I think we forget that people are watching us. And they may not even realize that they were part of my journey. I don't think I ever told them. I'm going to text them after this.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. I don't think we realize that people are watching us and growing because of us. Like we motivate, and that's how my hair journey started. A friend gave me permission to be myself and love my hair. And it took me a while, but I did. The second part of that answer is pain.
Ooh, talk about it. Talk about it.
My divorce was painful. It was it was almost a beautiful divorce. The divorce attorney said the easiest one she's ever done, the mediator. My ex-husband and I are very close friends. We co-parent. Things are beautiful, really wonderful. But it was so hard. It was almost half my life with a man that I thought I was going to be with forever. And when that was taken from beneath me, right, wasn't my choice, I thought my world had ended. It was like my world exploded, right? And I had to discover life by myself. And I didn't know what to do. I had never gone to the movies by myself. I had never had dinner by myself. If I had never done that, I never traveled by myself. But let me tell you, my divorce was a gift. I found myself. I found what an incredibly resilient, strong woman I am. I found how to be a better mom for my kids, how to put them first, but how to put myself first so that I could put them first, so that I could be a good mom. I found what does self-care mean outside of the fluff. I found what does self-love mean. So I found how to love myself, and in a way where I no longer needed to be loved by someone else before I loved myself. So I traveled by myself. I took trips, and, I gave myself permission to cry, to hurt, and then to heal. The healing part took a while.
Man, congratulations.
Thank you. Still working on it.
Listen, we talk a lot about pain on this show. I don't know how that became that, but I think, in spiritual communities, they call that the dark night of the soul. In other communities, they call it ego death, right? But it's this unearthing in a way that I think people, and y'all out there listening to us, those who have gone through it, we know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
And it's a level of pain that you don't even, you can't, it's inconsolable. Like you can't even articulate from the places you're hurting. But the rising of the phoenix, for those of you who haven't checked out Axe Liberation, you should. But the last chapter is called The Rising of the Phoenix. And so in that book is when I talk about like the rebirth after that experience is brilliant, because you don't actually know when the other side's going to come. And so you're just trying to live your every moment. Like, let me just get to the next moment. And then it's like, let me get to the next hour. Then it's like, wait, I'm going to get to the next day, right?
Yes.
But in the process is this birthing of this amazing being that you don't even know within you.
Yep.
Right? And it's like, man, does it feel good on this side. But it took so much. I'm curious what helped get you through that period. Because I can hear your resilience. I know who you are. And you've always come across as a very strong woman, but I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
And so what kept you curious enough to finish the journey?
Oh, so many things and so many people. I didn't do it alone. I had a village. And sometimes that village, that person was my tiny little newborn who I would hold, and I would just cry and just take in his love and just hold him and just feel the love of God through him and feel that strength and feel, right? But I have to say that a lot of it was giving myself, go back to allowing and permission, using your words to feel it and go through it and be unapologetic about being honest about it. I was vocal. If I was on a stage talking about something, I would share that I'm neurodivergent. I would share that I have depression and anxiety. I would share that I take medication to help me through it. if I am on a stage, I am going to share that, life isn't always rainbows and unicorns and prettiness and right? I may make it look good, y'all, but it's not always as good. So I was open to it. I remember a year after the divorce, or a year after, I'll say, the conversations of separation and divorce, because it all happened really quickly. The first anniversary of, supposed anniversary of my wedding anniversary, I posted a picture in black and white of me and my ex-husband in our wedding. And I posted this really nice sentiment around what a beautiful marriage I had had and how grateful I was for that part of my life. Because not many people can say, I had 18 years of a healthy, happy, beautiful relationship. We got 3 kids out of it, an amazing friendship, but then things just ended, right? We moved on. We changed. We are not who we were when we were 20 years old. We're just not, right? And the amount of messages that I got, private messages from other women who had either been going through a divorce themselves, or who were thinking of going through a divorce, or who realized that's what they needed, was inspiring. So I realized that in not keeping myself a secret and quiet, and in sharing some of the things and the struggles in whatever form, that I could also help others. So that really helped me get through.
That's huge. And, it makes me think about, there's healing in my pain for someone else.
Yes.
So it's like, we've been here, we've had so many conversations about different things. And to your point, the response from folks is like, I didn't even think of life that way.
Yeah.
Right. And so being able, like, I'm like you in the sense of like, for a while, I was like, I can't tell nobody this happened, right? Because I'm so hyper fixated on what the world believes of me and the pictures they see and whatever.
That was me for a whole 6 months when I found out I was getting divorced. I was like, I can't tell.
You're like, I'm not going to say anything, because then somehow that means I'm a bad person, whatever it was, right? And then you realize someone else's healing is in my story, right? And if I can spare someone else from, going down a road that I realized was a dead end, like why not? And do people really look at you that way? So, 2 things come to mind. One, that there are multiple decisions we make in the world, that some good, some bad, that absolutely will impact someone's learning. And they need that to make meaning in whatever way they do. But then 2, I feel like there's an obligation for us to tell the truth, that it is muddy and it is messy and none of it's easy.
Yeah.
Right. And there are a lot of folks out here on Instagram acting like it's easy. And I'm like, let me be very clear. None of it's easy. It's not the picture. Right. So I wonder, when did you get to the place where it was like, I'm going to tell the story. I'm going to help other people. And the other thing your story does, and let me say congratulations to you and Nick, because it takes courage to center and focus on the main thing. And the main thing are the kids.
The babies.
Right? And there are a lot of folks who don't do that, struggle to do it, and I get it, right? There's a lot of tensions, emotions, right?
Yeah. It's not easy.
Yeah. But to get to this place where you can say, we created these amazing beings and we are going to usher them through life so that they understand that there is love, there can be loss, and there can still be love after the loss.
Yes.
And that's really what relationships are about, right? Because relationships are hard. And so, sometimes people don't tell that it's not easy. And even in the loss of something, you can gain respect and love in a different way that allows relationships. So congratulations to you, because that's important. That's a big deal. And what led you to the place of being like, I think other people can learn from me? Like, where did you get that from?
So I think it came slowly with the territory of doing my TEDx talk and having people write to me and say, wow, that was powerful. I connected with this. Slowly from my presentations through work, my workspace, where I talk about the importance of understanding discrimination and what does that look like, and little things like microaggressions and bias. And then people saying, oh, I know what you mean because this happened to me. Thank you for saying that, right? But on a personal level, I went to a funeral of a colleague, and this is while I was on maternity leave. So my separation came at the same time. So first of all, the summer of 2021. So we're a year in the pandemic, right? So things are bananas, but we're starting to be out because a year in, right? And I had postpartum depression. And I'll never forget that fall going into a funeral, the service of a colleague's parent, and talking to someone who I hadn't seen in months because of the pandemic and because of my maternity leave. And me saying to them, they looked at me, how are you? And I said, well, I'm doing great, but I just started medication because for the first time ever, I started medication because I have postpartum depression and it sucks. And she looked at me like,
I thought you were just going to say you were good.
That's what she was hoping for. What? Like, wait, what? That was a whole lot of TMI. I think it's when I also discovered ADHD and that, we just were oversharers by nature. But she stopped. She freaked out a little bit. And I'm like, oh, was that too much? And she's like, oh my God. I was told I should probably be on medication too. And I've never wanted to take them because I am so ashamed and embarrassed. And the fact that you just said you're on medication, I'm like, yeah, because still it's not clicking. So I can't forget that. I can't forget that someone actually considered something as life-changing as, whether you believe in medication or you don't, or you take them or you don't, but something life-changing to help yourself, just because I said that I did it too. Normalize it. I learned to normalize it. And it was hearing other people. I go back to, I wish more people would realize the impact we have on each other as humans.
Yeah, and it's funny because there's a lot of shame that comes with being normal.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of shame in being a human being. And so, even when people are in struggling and I'm like, why didn't you reach out? I realized, well, I didn't reach out because I felt shame because everybody thought I was perfect.
Yeah.
And that would mean that I wasn't, right? Yes. And then you realize, we were never supposed to be perfect, right? And so normalizing that real stuff, life is complex. Real stuff happens to real people. And that doesn't take away from their awesomeness. Like, right? You could be dope and a mess in the same moment, right?
Yes, you can.
And so, I'm appreciating how you're living your life in a way that is in service of others, right? To tell the truth, to remove the shame that we all have. Some of us have these, all of us, I think, have the finest moments and the not so finest moments. But in both of those times, we're still worthy of love and nurturing and being cared for and seen and heard and experiencing compassion and empathy on a deep level. We're coming up on time. So I have one more question. Then I have the question we ask every guest at the end.
Okay.
What do you say to someone who's struggling right now in this world with their truth?
Hang in there. Be true to yourself and it gets easier. It does. And I know that sounds, because, I can't just say one thing. I know it sounds fluffy. Hang in there. It gets easier. But the truth is that it does. Everything is temporary. Everything. These feelings are temporary. What we're living through is temporary. And tomorrow will be a different day.
Oh, man, that's perfect. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Our final question is, what does it mean to be a kind soul?
To think of others first. To think of others when you're about to make an opinion, when you're about to judge, when you're about to say something like, why are these people being hysterical over that? Think of them. There's a reason they're being hysterical. There's a reason there's pain. There's a reason there's fear. There's a reason So think of others first.
Inaudy Gill, y'all, you have given a masterclass today. And I love it because we just have a conversation.
We totally did.
Like things came up that I didn't even know, y'all. So this is the beauty of the podcast,
and
right?
Time went so fast. I'm not ready to finish. I have so much more to say. I could talk to you forever, Ebony.
You're always welcome to come back, right? We have people who come back and we talk about different stuff. I'm grateful that people who didn't know you will get a chance to know you.
Absolutely.
And know you not of just your title, but how amazing of a human that you truly are.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
So
I forget sometimes.
Thank you so much for joining us. Y'all have an amazing, amazing week. As always, do not allow someone to take out your joy and continue to raise the vibration of kindness on a global scale. You can find us at hellokindsoul.com. We'll see you next episode. Peace.